Hello again, everybody out there in YouTube land. Mark Allen Gunnell's back to do another reading from my new Cemetery Dance collection, Curtain Call, which is available digitally on Amazon.com. I'm going to read from the opening story now, actually, a story entitled The Girl Who Watched the Ocean. This was inspired by a trip my fiance and I took to Pawleys Island and the beach there. And I was just really taken aback by the magnificence and beauty and mystery of the ocean, and I wanted to write something that sort of captured that feeling. So, here we go. Do you mind if I have a seat here? Isaac asked, his voice quavering only slightly, and he counted that as a victory. The girl scanned the beach, and Isaac figured she must be wondering why he'd want to sit right next to her when there was all this open sand around. He braced himself for a quick rejection, but then she shrugged and said, "I don't own the beach. Be my guest." Isaac hunkered down, sitting cross-legged in the position his mother called Indian style, though he'd often told her that sounded racist. He wasn't exactly sure how it was racist, but at the very least in this day and age it should be called Native American style. He settled into the sand, which was as accommodating as any cushion, but more intrusive. He could already feel itchy grains getting into his shorts and irritating his skin, but that was okay. He'd shower when he got back to the room, and a little discomfort was a fair price to finally be this close to the girl he'd been obsessing over all week. Of course, he may not even have been there for all the attention she was paying him. Her eyes had gone instantly back to the ocean, as if she were bewitched by the undulating motion of the water as it rose up and crashed onto the shore. Isaac would give anything to have her look at him with that same intensity, but he seemed to be nothing more than a ghost to her, insubstantial, transparent, and inconsequential. "My name's Isaac," he said finally, trying to make himself more corporeal to her. She spared him a quick glance and a nod. "Nice to meet you." He waited a full minute for her to give her name before realizing she wasn't going to do so. Nervously, he began trailing his fingers in the sand, creating strange and indecipherable hieroglyphics. He noticed that there was a semicircle of seashells spread around the girl, all sizes and shapes and colors. He doubted this many shells could have washed up in one place in such a precise configuration, so he could only guess she'd gathered them herself, then made some kind of protective crescent as a shield against what? A good question, but it certainly seemed to have closed her off from Isaac. He was closer to her than he'd ever been, and yet had never felt quite so distant. "I'm a sophomore at Dorman High School in Spartanburg," he said, another desperate, clumsy attempt at making a connection. "What grade are you in?" At first he thought she wasn't going to answer, but finally, without looking at him, she said, "I'm not in school." Isaac wondered if this meant she'd already graduated, but she didn't look much older than him. Perhaps she was a dropout. In any case, he sensed this was a topic he shouldn't pursue, but he didn't want to stop talking. One-sided contact with the girl was better than nothing. "This is my first trip to Pawleys Island. I don't know why my folks didn't plan this vacation during the summer, but I had the week off from school for fall break and they thought it would be the perfect time to head to the beach. They said it would be less crowded and touristy this time of year." "During the summer the sand is clogged with loud and abrasive people," she said. "I know what you mean. A few summers back we went to Myrtle Beach, and it was so packed you could barely move, and all that noise sounded like a bunch of beached whales." "No, there's a lyrical quality to a whale song." She spoke as if she'd spent time communing with whales or something. Everything she said sounded like some kind of riddle or abstract poem, but Isaac shrugged it off. Pretty girls were supposed to be mysterious, weren't they? "Guess I came at a good time. Winter is best. Real solitude and the peaceful roar of the mighty sea." The girl spoke as if she sat out on this beach all year round. "Do your parents bring you here often? Do you have a vacation place on Pawleys Island?" "My parents have never been to this place." Isaac frowned. So she was older than she appeared, old enough to be on her own? Or were her parents perhaps dead and she lived with her grandparents or other relatives? Again, he got the impression he should shy away from this discussion. But what then could he talk to her about? He remembered a bit of advice his father had given him once when trying to instruct his son in the ways of courting. The whole conversation had made him immensely uncomfortable at the time, but now some of what his father told him seemed to make a lot of sense. Don't try to force women to be interested in what you're interested in. Talk to them about the things that interest them. Simple, but brilliant. And there was only one thing that seemed to interest this girl. Isaac turned his own gaze to the ocean, and was struck anew by the magnificent and mysterious beauty before him, a beauty that rivaled even that of his companion. The setting sun balanced precariously on the horizon like a ball just about to roll off the edge of a table, broke through the cloud cover and reflected off the water in a dazzling display that was almost blinding to look at. And yet Isaac couldn't look away. The waves rose and fell in a hypnotic rhythm, like a beast making slow but furious love. The white noise of the sea was all-encompassing, apocalyptic, and yet the very opposite of that, a creative explosion. He had heard that all life began in the ocean, and as he stared across the glistening and ceaselessly surging expanse that stretched as far as he could see, he believed it. No wonder the girl couldn't tear her eyes away. "The ocean is truly beautiful," he said, then felt ashamed at how insufficient the words were. The girl laughed. "This isn't the ocean." "Really?" he said, speaking to the girl but continuing to study the sea, now as transfixed as she was. "It certainly looks like the ocean to me." "That would be like glimpsing only the tip of a man's head and claiming you'd seen the whole man. There's a whole other world under there. Exotic and colorful flora, millions of different creatures living and dying in a symbiotic dance of mortality, deep dark crevices and mountainous reefs." Isaac found himself smiling. The girl's monologue was charmingly poetic, but also rather peculiar, and yet he was just happy she was talking to him. "So what are you, a scuba diver or something?" She laughed again, though there was no real humor in the brittle sound. Determined to cling to the tentative intimacy he felt kindling between them like an ember that he wanted to fan into a flame, he said, "So where are you from?" "There," she said, jutting her chin out toward the sea. "I don't understand." She turned her eyes on him again, those wide, haunting eyes that seemed to hold him entranced. "I'm from the ocean." Again, that's just a little bit of the story The Girl Who Watched the Ocean from Curtain Call. Check it out. If you have bought it and read it, please leave me some feedback. I crave feedback. And thanks for listening.